Story 1. I've been working as a park ranger at Thunder Ridge National Park for 8 years now. I got into this job because I love the outdoors and wanted to protect these beautiful places for future generations. My dad was a ranger too, and he taught me that rules exist for good reasons, usually safety. I never thought I'd deal with someone who made me question my faith in humanity until last month. It was a busy Saturday morning in peak hiking season. I was stationed at the Thunder Ridge trailhead, checking permits and giving safety briefings to hikers. The advanced trails require permits because they're dangerous steep cliffs, unstable rock faces, and areas where people have gotten seriously hurt or died. We limit the number of people to prevent overcrowding and ensure we can respond quickly if something goes wrong. Around 10 a.m., this woman in her 40s approached my station. She was wearing designer hiking boots that looked like they'd never seen dirt, yoga pants, and a tank top, not exactly proper gear for the rugged trails. She was eyeing on the trail map behind me. Me, good morning. Which trail are you planning to hike today? Karen, I want to do the Devil's Backbone Trail. That's our most challenging trail, a 12-mile round trip with exposed cliff sections and technical climbing portions. I immediately noticed she had no backpack, no water, and definitely no safety equipment. Devil's Backbone requires an advance permit and proper safety gear. Do you have your permit? Karen, I don't need a permit. Nature should be free for everyone. I understand that perspective, but the permit system exists for safety reasons. Devil's Backbone has had 3 fatalities in the past 5 years. The permit ensures you have the proper experience and equipment. Karen, that's ridiculous. I've been hiking for years. I don't need some government paper to walk in the woods. I'm sorry, but I can't let you access that trail without a permit. However, we have several beautiful trails that don't require permits. The Meadow Loop is gorgeous this time of year. Her face turned red. I could see her getting angrier by the second. Karen, this is America. You can't stop me from going where I want to go. These rules are just money grabs. Ma'am, permits for Devil's Backbone are free. You just need to apply online and show proof of hiking experience and proper gear. It takes 5 minutes. Karen, I don't have time for bureaucratic nonsense. I'm going through whether you like it or not. She started walking toward the trail entrance. I stepped in front of her. I can't allow that. If you proceed without a permit, you'll be trespassing on restricted federal land. That's when she completely lost it. She started screaming about her taxpayer rights and how I was just some power-hungry government drone. Other hikers stopped to stare. Then, while I was trying to calm her down, she reached over to my station and grabbed the detailed topographical map of Devil's Backbone, the one with all the safety warnings and emergency contact points marked. Ma'am, you need to return that map. Karen, try and stop me. She clutched the map to her chest and took off running toward the trail. I immediately radioed my supervisor and base camp about the situation. We have protocols for this. We don't chase people into dangerous terrain because that just puts more lives at risk. Within 30 minutes, we had alerts out to all rangers in the area and contacted local emergency services. All we could do was wait and hope she'd turn around when she realized how challenging the trail was. 4 hours later, my radio crackled to life. Dispatcher, we've got a 911 call from Devil's Backbone. Female hiker reports she's lost and stuck on a cliff face. My heart sank. I knew exactly who it was. The rescue took 6 hours. Our technical rescue team had to rappel down a 60-foot cliff face to reach her. She was clinging to a narrow ledge about halfway down a sheer rock wall, crying and screaming for help. She'd somehow gotten off the marked trail, which was clearly indicated on the map she'd stolen, and tried to take what she thought was a shortcut. When they finally got her to safety, she was dehydrated, had several cuts from scrambling on rocks, and was suffering from mild hypothermia. The paramedics checked her out while I filled out the incident report. Karen, thank God you found me. I could have died out there. Why aren't your trails marked better? Ma'am, the trail is clearly marked. You left the designated path and entered a restricted climbing area. Karen: well, maybe if you'd given me proper directions instead of being difficult about some stupid permit, this wouldn't have happened. I couldn't believe it. Even after a dangerous rescue operation involving 8 people, she was still blaming everyone but herself. My supervisor arrived as the paramedics were loading her into the ambulance. He handed her a clipboard with several forms. Supervisor: ma'am, you're being cited for unauthorized access to restricted federal land, theft of government property, and reckless endangerment. The fines total $2,800. Karen: what? You can't fine me. I'm the victim here. I almost died. Supervisor: you almost died because you ignored safety regulations and stole park property. You also cost taxpayers approximately $12,000 in rescue resources. Karen: this is insane. I'm calling my lawyer. You'll hear from me. Supervisor: that's your right. Court date is on the citation. As the ambulance drove away, one of the rescue team members shook his head. Rescue team member: in 20 years of doing this job, I've never seen someone so angry about being rescued. 2 months later, I got called to testify at her court hearing. She'd hired a lawyer and was fighting the citations. Her argument was that the Park Service was negligent for not preventing her from accessing the dangerous area. The judge wasn't buying it. Security camera footage from my station clearly showed her stealing the map and ignoring multiple warnings. Her lawyer tried to argue that the permit requirement was unconstitutional, but the judge pointed out that she could have gotten a free permit if she'd followed the simple online process. In the end, she had to pay the full $2,800 in fines plus court costs. The judge also ordered her to complete 40 hours of community service with the local search and rescue team so she could understand the risks and resources involved in mountain rescues. I heard through the grapevine that she complained about the community service too, claiming it was cruel and unusual punishment to make her help rescue other hikers. Some people just never learn. The stolen map. We found it wedged in a crack in the cliff face where she'd been stuck. It was torn and water damaged, but you could still clearly see all the warning symbols and safety information that might have prevented her whole ordeal if she'd bothered to read it. These days, I keep that story in mind whenever someone pushes back against park regulations. Rules aren't suggestions, they're written in the blood and tears of people who learned the hard way that nature doesn't care about your sense of entitlement. Story 2. I've been running my dry cleaning business for 15 years now. Started from nothing after my divorce left me with barely enough to rent this small storefront downtown. Back then, I was doing everything myself, picking up clothes, operating the machines, handling customer service. It was tough, but I slowly built up a reputation for quality work and fair prices. Over the years, I managed to upgrade my equipment and hire 2 part-time employees. We specialized in delicate items like wedding dresses, formal wear, and expensive fabrics. The wedding dress business really took off after I invested in a specialized cleaning system that could handle even the most intricate beadwork and lace without damage. Last Tuesday started like any other day. I was in the back checking on a batch of suits when my employee came to tell me about a problem with our main cleaning machine. The motor had started making strange noises and shut down completely. I called the repair guy, but he couldn't come until the next day. This meant delays for several customers, including one woman who had dropped off an expensive fur coat on Monday. She was supposed to pick it up Tuesday afternoon, but now it would have to wait until Wednesday. Around 2 p.m., she stormed in. I could tell she was angry before she even opened her mouth. Karen, where is my coat? I specifically said I needed it today. Me, I'm sorry, but our main cleaning machine broke down this morning. The repair technician will be here tomorrow, so your coat will be ready Wednesday afternoon. Karen, Wednesday? That's completely unacceptable. I have an important dinner tonight, and I need that coat. Me, I understand your frustration, but machine breakdowns happen. I can offer you a discount for the inconvenience. Karen, a discount? Do you know how much that coat cost? This is completely unprofessional. I demand you get another machine right now. Me, ma'am, I wish I could. But we only have the one cleaning unit for delicate items like yours. All the other dry cleaners in town use the same repair service, so even if I wanted to send it elsewhere, they're backed up too. She started pacing back and forth, getting more agitated by the minute. I tried to stay calm and professional, but she was clearly building up to something. Karen, this is ridiculous. I've been a customer here for 2 years, and this is how you treat me. I want to speak to your manager. Me, I am the owner, and I'm doing everything I can to accommodate you. Karen, well, you're doing a terrible job. I want compensation for this. Real compensation, not some pathetic discount. At this point, another customer walked in, a young woman in her 20s who looked nervous. She approached the counter while Karen continued her rant. Customer, excuse me, I'm here to pick up my wedding dress. I'm getting married this Saturday. I smiled at her, grateful for the interruption. This was actually one of my favorite jobs, a beautiful vintage gown that had belonged to her grandmother. We'd spent hours carefully cleaning and restoring it. Me, of course, let me get that for you. It came out beautifully. I went to the back room where we keep the finished items. The wedding dress was hanging on a special preservation rack, covered in protective plastic. It looked perfect, the ivory satin gleaming and the delicate lace trim restored to its original condition. I was carefully taking it down when I heard shouting from the front. Karen's voice was getting louder and more aggressive. Then I heard footsteps coming toward the back room. Before I could react, Karen burst through the door, separating the front from our work area. She had a large coffee cup in her hand. Karen, if you won't take care of my needs, then maybe you'll understand when I mess with yours. Everything happened so fast. She raised the coffee cup and deliberately poured the entire contents over the wedding dress. The hot liquid soaked through the protective plastic and stained the pristine fabric brown. Karen, this is what happens when you mess with me. Maybe next time you'll think twice before disappointing your important customers. I stood there in shock for a moment, watching coffee drip from the ruined dress. Then the anger hit me. Me, are you insane? Do you realize what you just did? Karen, I sure do. And I'll do it again if you don't start treating me with respect. The bride had followed us into the back room and was staring at her grandmother's dress in horror. She started crying immediately. Bride, that's my wedding dress. I'm getting married in 4 days. That was my grandmother's dress. Karen, well, maybe you should have chosen a more reliable dry cleaner. That was the final straw. I pulled out my phone and called the police while Karen stood there looking smug. Then I remembered something important. Me, you know what? I'm glad you did this where you did. Karen, what's that supposed to mean? I pointed to the corner of the ceiling where our security camera was clearly visible. Me, we have the whole thing on video. Every word you said, everything you did. For the first time, Karen looked uncertain. Karen, so what? It's just a dress. Bride, just a dress. This was irreplaceable. It's been in my family for 3 generations. The police arrived within 10 minutes. I showed them the security footage, which captured everything clearly. Karen had deliberately destroyed someone else's property and admitted she did it out of spite. The bride decided to press charges for destruction of property. Since the dress was a family heirloom and couldn't be replaced, the value was significant. Karen tried to argue that it was just an accident, but the video clearly showed her intentional actions. Here's where it gets really satisfying. Because Karen's coat was still in our possession and was now part of a criminal case, the police seized it as evidence. She couldn't get it back until after the trial. But it gets better. The bride's family owns a small but influential legal firm in town. They not only pursued the criminal charges, but also filed a civil lawsuit for the full replacement value of the dress, plus emotional distress damages. Word spread quickly through our small business community. Within a week, Karen found herself banned from every high-end dry cleaner in the city. Apparently, none of them wanted to risk having their work destroyed by someone with anger management issues. The insurance company eventually covered most of the cost of recreating the bride's dress, and we found an amazing seamstress who worked around the clock to make a new one using the same vintage pattern. It wasn't her grandmother's dress, but it was beautiful, and the bride was happy. Karen ended up paying thousands in damages and legal fees, spent a weekend in jail, and had to do community service. She also had to wear a cheaper coat to whatever important dinner she was so worried about. Sometimes karma works exactly the way it should. Story 3. I never thought I'd be writing this story, but here we are. My name doesn't matter, but what happened to me over the past few months absolutely does. I'm a software engineer who works from home, and I bought my house in this quiet suburban neighborhood about 3 years ago specifically because I wanted peace and quiet to focus on my work. The house came with typical beige, everything beige siding, beige shutters, and a boring brown front door that looked like every other house on the block. After saving up for a while, my partner and I decided to add some personality to our home. We've been talking about painting the front door a nice navy blue for months. It seemed harmless enough. I'm not the type to just do things without checking first, so I called our homeowners association office to make sure there weren't any restrictions on door colors. The representative told me that as long as it wasn't neon or offensive, we were good to go. I even got it in writing via email. We picked out a beautiful shade called Admiral Blue and spent a weekend painting it. It looked amazing and really made our house stand out in the best way. That's when my problems with my next-door neighbor started. The woman next door, let's call her Karen, because that's exactly what she came storming over the Monday after we finished painting. Karen, what is that supposed to be? Me, what do you mean? Karen, that hideous blue monstrosity on your door. Do you have any idea what you've done to my property value? Me, it's just a blue door. The homeowners association approved it. Karen, I don't care what they said. That color is completely inappropriate for this neighborhood. You need to change it back immediately. I tried to stay calm and explained that we had gotten proper approval, but she wasn't having any of it. She kept ranting about how our eyesore was going to ruin the whole street and how we were being disrespectful to everyone else. Karen, I'm calling my lawyer. You'll be hearing from them soon. Me, that's your choice, but we didn't do anything wrong. True to her word, 3 days later, I got a letter from her attorney demanding that we repaint our door brown and threatening to sue us for damages to her property value. The letter claimed we had violated neighborhood standards and created a public nuisance. I couldn't believe someone would actually spend money on a lawyer over a door color. I forwarded the letter to our homeowners association and asked them to send Karen the same approval they had given me. I also called my own lawyer just to be safe. He laughed when I told him what was happening and said Karen didn't have a case since we had followed all the proper procedures. But Karen wasn't done. Over the next few weeks, she escalated things constantly. She started taking pictures of our house from different angles and measuring distances from our door to the property line. She even brought people over to look at our house and point at our door while shaking their heads dramatically. The homeowners association scheduled a hearing about the complaint. I showed up with my approval email and photos of other colorful doors in the neighborhood that had been there for years. Karen showed up with a folder full of printouts about property values and a petition she claimed was signed by other neighbors. The board president looked tired as he addressed Karen. Board president, ma'am, we have records showing that we approved this door color. Several other houses in the community have similar paint choices that were also approved. Karen, those approvals were mistakes. You people don't understand real estate values like I do. Board member, are you saying we don't know our own policies? Karen, I'm saying this door is unacceptable and you need to fix this immediately or I'll take further action. The board unanimously sided with us. They reminded Karen that harassment of neighbors was actually against community guidelines and warned her to stop her behavior. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. 2 weeks later, a city inspector showed up at my door with a clipboard and a very serious expression. Inspector, We received a complaint about unauthorized construction on this property. I need to do a full inspection of any recent modifications or additions. Me, what kind of modifications? We just painted our front door. Inspector, the complaint mentions potential structural changes and unpermitted work. I'll need to check everything just to be thorough. I let him in, and he spent about an hour looking around. He checked our door, our windows, even looked in our basement and attic. Finally, he seemed satisfied. Inspector, everything looks fine here. Your door is just paint, and I don't see any unpermitted construction. However, since I'm in the neighborhood investigating, I should probably check the property where the complaint originated from as well. Standard procedure. Me? You mean Karen's house? Inspector, I can't discuss details, but yes, the neighboring property. About an hour later, I was working in my home office when I heard shouting from next door. I looked out my window and saw the same inspector talking to Karen in her backyard, and she was clearly not happy. Karen, this is harassment. I'm the one who called you. Inspector, ma'am, during routine investigations we check all properties in the immediate area. That deck appears to be a recent addition. Karen, that deck has been there for 2 years. Inspector, do you have permits for it? The shouting continued for another 20 minutes. I tried to focus on work, but it was hard to ignore the drama happening right outside my window. That evening, my partner came home and found me grinning at my computer. Partner, why do you look like you just won the lottery? Me, remember our lovely neighbor and her lawyer threats. Partner, don't tell me she's still going on about the door. Me, oh, it gets better. She called the city to report us for unauthorized construction, so they sent an inspector. Partner, what? But we didn't do any construction. Me, exactly. But when the inspector was here, he noticed Karen's backyard deck doesn't have permits. Turns out she built that whole thing without approval from anyone. 3 days later, Karen got hit with violation notices from both the city and the homeowners association. The city fined her $2,800 for unpermitted construction, and she had 30 days to either get retroactive permits or remove the deck entirely. The homeowners association fined her an additional $500 for the unauthorized addition. But here's the best part: when she tried to get retroactive permits, the city discovered that her deck was built too close to the property line and didn't meet current safety codes. They denied her permit application and gave her 60 days to completely remove the deck or face daily fines of $100. I was getting my mail last week when Karen came outside. She looked defeated. Karen, I hope you're happy. Me? I didn't do anything. You called the inspector, remember? Karen, this is all your fault. If you had just painted your door a normal color, none of this would have happened. Me, you could have just minded your own business from the beginning. Karen, that deck cost me $8,000 to build, and now I have to pay someone $3,000 to tear it down. Me, maybe next time you'll follow the proper procedures like everyone else. She stomped back into her house and slammed the door. I haven't heard from her since, but I did notice that the deck removal crew showed up yesterday morning. My blue door still looks fantastic, by the way. Several neighbors have complimented it, and one even asked for the paint color so they could do something similar with their shutters. Sometimes karma works in the most beautiful ways. Karen tried to use the system to bully us into submission, but ended up getting caught by that same system for her own violations, all because she couldn't handle the sight of a blue door. I'm keeping that approval email from the Homeowners Association forever. Story 4. I've been the Parent-Teacher Association treasurer at my daughter's elementary school for 3 years now. It's not the most glamorous volunteer position, but someone has to keep track of the fundraising money and make sure we can afford new playground equipment and classroom supplies. My daughter is in 5th grade, and I figured I'd stick it out until she graduates to middle school. The whole mess started about 6 months ago when this woman joined our top. She'd moved to our district from across town and immediately volunteered for everything. At first, I thought it was great, we always need more hands. but she had this way of taking over conversations and steering everything back to herself. During our October meeting about the Halloween carnival, she spent 20 minutes talking about how her previous school did things so much better. She always carried this huge pink bag covered in sparkles and was constantly pulling out little sample packets to hand to other parents. At first, I thought they were mints or something, but then I realized they were face cream samples. She'd corner parents in the pickup line and start talking about life-changing skincare and financial freedom. The real problem started in January when we began planning our biggest fundraiser of the year, the silent auction. We needed to raise $15,000 to replace the broken heating system in the library. Every meeting, she would ask if she could share something exciting with the group. Our president, who's been running these meetings for 8 years, kept politely redirecting her to stick to auction business. But she didn't give up. She started arriving early to meetings and staying late, trying to pitch parents one-on-one. I watched her follow other moms to their cars, talking rapidly while they tried to unlock their doors and escape. Several parents complained to me privately that she was making them uncomfortable. Things came to a head at our February meeting. We were voting on how to allocate the auction funds. The heating system was the priority, but we also needed new books for the library and art supplies. It was a big decision that would affect every kid in the school. About 30 parents showed up, which was actually a great turnout for us. I was presenting the budget breakdown when she raised her hand. "Karen, I have a motion to add something to tonight's agenda." "President, we're in the middle of the funding discussion. Can this wait until new business?" "Karen, this is actually related to funding. I have a revolutionary business opportunity that could solve all our money problems." The room got quiet. I could see parents exchanging glances. "President, I don't think this is appropriate for a TAM meeting." "Karen, just give me 5 minutes. This could change everything for our families." "President, the focus tonight needs to be on the vote. We can discuss other fundraising ideas at our next meeting if you'd like to submit a formal proposal." That's when she stood up and marched straight to the front of the room. Our president was using a small microphone connected to a portable speaker system. Before anyone could react, she grabbed the microphone right out of the president's hand. "Karen, since no one wants to listen to financial solutions, I'll just have to take matters into my own hands." "President, please sit down. You're out of order." "Karen, ladies and gentlemen, how many of you are tired of struggling to raise money for basic school needs? How many of you wish there was a way to earn extra income while taking care of your families?" She started walking around the room with a microphone, like she was hosting a game show. Parents were shifting in their seats, looking anywhere but at her. "Karen, I'm here to tell you about an amazing opportunity with premium skincare products that practically sell themselves. In just 6 months, I've already earned enough to pay for my daughter's gymnastics lessons, and some of my team members are making enough to quit their day jobs." "Vice President, this is completely inappropriate. We're here to vote on school funding." "Karen, but this is about school funding. Imagine if every family here could contribute twice as much to the auction because they're earning extra money. Imagine never having to worry about fundraising again." She reached into her giant pink bag and started pulling out products, setting them up on the table where we had our budget printouts. "Karen, this regenerating serum retails for $65, but as distributors, you'd pay only $32. The profit margins are incredible, and the results speak for themselves." The president tried to get closer to take back the microphone, but she kept moving around the room. "President, I'm going to have to ask you to leave if you don't stop this immediately." "Karen, you can ask me to leave, but you can't ask opportunity to leave. This is about securing our children's futures." That's when our vice president, who works in corporate event planning, stood up and walked straight to the wall. She unplugged the speaker system, cutting off the microphone completely. The room fell silent except for the sound of her voice, now without amplification, still trying to pitch her products to parents who were grabbing their coats and heading for the door. "President, I'm calling the front office to have security escort you out. Karen, you're making a huge mistake. You're denying these families a chance at financial freedom. By the time the security guard from the district office arrived, half the parents had already left. The officer was polite but firm. Security, ma'am, I need you to pack up your materials and leave the premises. Karen, this is discrimination. I have a right to be here. Security, you have a right to attend meetings, but not to disrupt them. Please gather your things. She made a big show of dramatically sweeping all her products back into her bag, muttering about closed-minded people and missed opportunities. The president managed to salvage the meeting. We reconvened the following week, and the funding vote passed unanimously. But the drama wasn't over. 2 days later, I got a call from the principal. Apparently, the school has a policy about parents using school events for commercial purposes. It's buried in the volunteer handbook that everyone signs but nobody reads. The disruption of an official TA meeting was considered a violation serious enough to affect her daughter's participation in school activities. Principal, I hate having to do this, but she's disqualified from running for student council and can't participate in the upcoming science fair. I felt bad for the kid, who seemed nice enough and had nothing to do with her mother's behavior. The final nail in the coffin came when the TA board met the following week. We voted unanimously to ban her from all future TA functions. The president sent her a formal letter explaining that while she was welcome at school events open to all parents, she was no longer permitted to attend TA meetings or volunteer for TA activities. She tried to appeal the decision by going to the principal, then the district office, but they all backed up our decision. She even started a petition to restore fair treatment for entrepreneurial parents, but only managed to get 12 signatures, and half of those were from people who didn't even have kids at our school. The funniest part happened a month later. I was at the grocery store when I spotted her in the cosmetics aisle, apparently having given up on the skincare business entirely. She was buying regular drugstore face cream, the same brand my teenager uses. She saw me and quickly turned away, but not before I noticed her cart was full of the discounted Easter candy. I guess her revolutionary business opportunity didn't work out quite as planned. Our spring auction ended up being the most successful fundraiser in the school's history. We raised enough money for the heating system, new library books, art supplies, and even had enough left over to fix the broken playground equipment. Sometimes I wonder if she realizes that her disruption actually brought our parent community closer together. Nothing unites a TA quite like a common enemy who tries to turn a school meeting into a sales presentation. Story 5. I've been running my small vegan food business for about 3 years now. It started as a hobby when I went plant-based after some health issues, but people kept asking me to cater their events. Eventually, I got all my permits and licenses and started doing farmers markets and food festivals regularly. This particular weekend was the annual Green Living Festival in our downtown area. I'd been looking forward to it for months because it was always one of my best events. The crowd was perfect for my business health-conscious people who actually appreciated good vegan food instead of just tolerating it. I got there early Saturday morning to set up my booth. The festival had about 20 vendors total, and most of us knew each other from doing these events. There was the couple who sold organic smoothies, the woman with the amazing quinoa salads, and the guy who made those incredible mushroom burgers that even meat eaters loved. We all had our permits displayed, our insurance paperwork filed, and our health department certificates current. The morning went great. I was selling my jackfruit tacos and cashew mac and cheese faster than I could make them. Around noon, things got interesting. This woman showed up wheeling a full-size charcoal grill behind her. She parked it right between my booth and the smoothie stand, which was weird because there wasn't supposed to be a vendor space there. She was probably in her 50s, wearing a shirt that said, "Meat is murder," of my diet, and had this smug expression like she was about to do something really clever. I walked over to introduce myself, thinking maybe she was a new vendor I hadn't met. "Me, hi there, I don't think we've met." Are you supposed to be set up here? Karen, oh, I'm not a vendor. I'm just providing a public service. That should have been my first red flag, but I was still trying to be friendly. Me, what do you mean? Karen, well, I saw online that this whole festival was just a bunch of rabbit food stands, so I figured people would want some real food for once. She started pulling packages of ribs out of a cooler and firing up her grill. The smell of lighter fluid filled the air, which was not great next to food vendors. The smoothie guy came over looking confused. Smoothie guy, excuse me, but you can't just set up here. This is a permitted event. Do you have vendor authorization? Karen, I don't need authorization to grill in a public park. It's my constitutional right. Smoothie guy, actually, during permitted events, you need. Karen, listen, buddy, I'm doing everyone here a favor. Nobody wants to eat your grass smoothies when they can have real American food. She was getting louder, and customers were starting to stare. Some of my regular customers looked uncomfortable and started walking away. I tried to defuse the situation. Me, look, I'm sure we can work this out. Maybe you could talk to the event organizer about getting a last-minute permit. Karen, I'm not paying some bureaucrat for permission to exercise my rights. Besides, these people need to know what real food tastes like. She started calling out to passing festival goers. Karen, real food here, actual protein, not this fake health food nonsense. A customer who had been ordering from me looked embarrassed and walked away. Another customer, a teenage girl with her mom, stopped to look at my menu. Customer's mom, this looks interesting. Is everything really vegan? Before I could answer, Karen shouted from 10 feet away. Karen, don't waste your money on that. Growing kids need real meat. That fake stuff will make your daughter weak and sickly. The mom grabbed her daughter's hand and hurried away. I felt my face getting hot. Me, you need to stop this. You're hurting our businesses. Karen, good. Maybe you'll learn to sell real food instead of this hippie garbage. The organic salad vendor had called the event organizer, who showed up looking stressed and carrying a clipboard. Event organizer, ma'am, I'm going to need you to shut down and move your grill. You don't have a permit for this. Karen, I told your little friends here, I don't need a permit. This is a public park. Event organizer, during permitted events, all food service requires authorization from the city. You're also creating a fire hazard with that grill. Karen, fire hazard. I've been grilling for 30 years. I know what I'm doing better than some pencil pusher. Event organizer, I'm sorry, but you need to pack up now or I'll have to call the authorities. Karen, go ahead, call them. I'm not doing anything wrong. So the event organizer called. While we waited, Karen kept grilling and shouting about real food and how we were all poisoning people with fake meat. She told one customer that my jackfruit tacos would give him feminine hormones and another that the smoothie stand was part of a conspiracy to weaken America. The fire marshal showed up first, followed by a police officer. The fire marshal took one look at Karen's setup and started shaking his head. Fire marshal, ma'am, you're operating an unpermitted food service within 50 feet of other food vendors. That's a health code violation. You're also using an open flame grill without proper clearance from structures and other vendors. That's a fire code violation. Karen, this is ridiculous. It's just a grill. Fire marshal, do you have a business license? Karen, I'm not a business. Fire marshal, you're selling food. That makes you a business. Do you have food handler's certification? Karen, I don't need certification to grill meat. Police officer, ma'am, you've been asked to leave multiple times. You need to pack up your equipment and go. Karen, I'm not leaving. These people are serving fake food and somebody needs to tell the truth. Fire marshal, your grill is being confiscated as evidence of health and fire code violations. You'll need to come to the station to fill out paperwork and pay your fines. Karen, you can't take my grill. That's theft. Police officer, ma'am, turn around and put your hands behind your back. The crowd that had gathered started clapping as they led Karen away. The fire marshal and another officer wheeled her grill to their truck. The rest of the festival went smoothly. I actually had my best sales day ever because people kept coming over to ask about the crazy grill lady and ended up trying my food. About a week later, the event organizer called me. "Event organizer, I thought you'd want to know your grill-crashing friend got fined $1,500 for operating without permits and fire code violations." Me, wow, that's steep. Event organizer gets better. The city now uses her photo on all vendor permit applications as an example of unauthorized vending. She's basically become the poster child for what not to do. I still do that festival every year, and vendors still tell the story of the grill crasher to newcomers. Last year, someone even made a t-shirt with her picture that said, "Real food here," but crossed out. I never saw Karen again, but I heard she tried to crash a few other events around the city. Apparently, the fire marshal's office knows her by name now.